But some are found to be mistaken about the procession of the Holy Spirit, saying that the Holy Spirit does not proceed from the Son, and therefore it must be shown that the Holy Spirit proceeds from the Son. For it is manifest from the Holy Scriptures that the Holy Spirit is the Spirit of the Son. For it is said in Romans 8:9, "If anyone does not have the Spirit of Christ, this is not his." But lest anyone should say that there is one Spirit that proceeds from the Father, and another that is from the Son, it is shown from the words of the same apostle that the same Holy Spirit is the Father and the Son. For what was brought forth, "If any man hath not the Spirit of Christ, he is not his," he added, after he had said, "If the Spirit of God dwelleth in us," and so forth. But it cannot be said that the Holy Spirit is the Spirit of Christ from this alone, that he had him as a man, according to Luke 4. 1. Jesus, full of the Holy Spirit, returned from the Jordan. For it is called Galatians 4:6. "Since you are children of God, God sent the Spirit of his Son into your hearts, crying, Father. From this, therefore, the Holy Spirit makes us sons of God, inasmuch as he is the Spirit of the sons of God. Now we are made adopted sons of God by assimilation to the natural Son of God, according to Romans 8:29, whom he foresaw and predestined to become conformed to the image of his Son, so that he himself would be the firstborn among many brothers. So therefore the Holy Spirit is the Spirit of Christ, inasmuch as he is the natural Son of God. But the Holy Spirit cannot be called the Spirit of the Son of God according to another attitude, except according to some origin, because this distinction alone is found in the divine. It is therefore necessary to say that the Holy Spirit is like a son because it proceeds from him. Again, the Holy Spirit is sent by the Son, according to John 15:26, when the Paraclete comes, whom I will send to you from the Father. But the sender has some authority over the message. It must therefore be said that the Son has some authority with respect to the Holy Spirit, but not of dominion or of majority, but according to origin alone. So then the Holy Spirit is from the Son. But if anyone says that even the Son is sent by the Holy Spirit, because it is said in Luke 4:18.21, what the Lord said filled in himself that of Isaiah, "The Spirit of the Lord upon me. He sent me to preach the good news to the poor." But it must be considered that the Son is sent by the Holy Spirit according to the assumed nature. But the Holy Spirit did not assume a created nature, so that according to it can be said that he was sent by the Son, or that the Son has authority with respect to him. It is left then that with respect to the eternal person, the Son has authority over the Holy Spirit. Further, John 16:14, the Son says about the Holy Spirit, "He will glorify me, because he will receive from me." But it cannot be said that he receives that which is the Son's, yet he does not receive from the Son, as if it were said that he receives the divine essence, which is the Son's from the Father, whence it is submitted, "All that the Father hath are mine." For this reason I told you that he will receive from me. For if all that is the Father's and the Son's, it must be that the authority of the Father, according to which the principle of the Holy Spirit is, must also be of the Son. As therefore the Holy Spirit receives from the Father what is the Father's, so he receives from the Son what is the Son's. The authorities of the teachers of the Church, even of the Greeks, may also be brought to this end. For Athanasius says, "The Holy Spirit is from the Father and the Son, not made nor created nor begotten, but proceeding." Cyril also in his letter, which the Synod of Chalcedon received, says, "The Spirit of truth is called, and it is the Spirit of truth, and it flows from him, just as finally from God the Father." Didymus also says, in the book on the Holy Spirit, "Nor is a son anything else except those things which are given to him by the Father." nor is the Holy Spirit any other substance than that which is given to him by the Son. Now it is ridiculous that some grant that the Holy Spirit is from the Son, or that it flows from him, but does not proceed from him. For the word procession is found to be more common among all things that belong to the origin. For whatever is in any way from someone, we say, proceeds from him. And since the divine are better designated by general than by particular, the word procession is most adapted to the origin of the divine persons. Hence, if it is granted that the Holy Spirit is from the Son, or flows from him, it follows that he proceeds from him. Again, it is held in the determination of the Fifth Council. We follow in all things the holy fathers and teachers of the Church, Athanasius, Hilary, Basil, Gregory the Theologian and Gregory of Nyssa, Ambrose, Augustine, Theophilus, John Constantine, Cyril, Leo, Proclus, and we accept all that concerns the right faith and set forth the condemnation of the heretics. It is evident from many authorities of Augustine, and especially in the book on the Trinity and on John, that the Holy Spirit is from the Son. It must therefore be granted that the Holy Spirit is from the Son as well as from the Father. This also appears from obvious reasons, for in things removed from the material distinction which cannot take place in the divine persons, there are no things distinguished except by some opposition. For things which have no opposition to each other can be together in the same thing, so that no distinction can be caused by them. For white and triangular, although they are different because they are not opposed, they happen to be in the same thing. Now it is necessary to suppose, according to the documents of the Catholic faith, that the Holy Spirit is distinguished from the Son. Otherwise there would not be a Trinity, but a duality in persons. It is necessary, therefore, that this kind of distinction should be made by means of some opposition, but not by the opposition of affirmation and negation, because in this way beings are distinguished from non-beings, nor even by the opposition of privation and habit, because thus the perfect are distinguished from the imperfect, nor even the opposition of contrariety, because in this way things are distinguished which are different according to form. For contrariety, as the philosophers teach, is difference according to form. This difference does not belong to the divine persons, since they have one form, as well as one essence, according to the words of the Apostle Philippians 2:6, speaking of the Son who is in the form of God, that is, of the Father. It is therefore left that one divine person cannot be distinguished from another, except by the opposition of relation. For thus the Son is distinguished from the Father according to the relative opposition of Father and Son. For in the divine persons there can be no other relative opposition, except according to origin. For it is based on a relatively opposite or above quantity, as double and a half, or over action and passion, as master and servant, mover and motion, Father and Son. Again, of the relations which are founded on quantity, some are founded on a different quantity, as double and half, greater and less. Some upon unity itself is the same, which signifies one in substance, and equal, which signifies one in quantity, and similar, which signifies one in quality. Therefore, the divine persons cannot be distinguished by relations based on the difference of quantity, because in this way, the equality of the three persons would be taken away, nor again with relations which are based on one thing, because such relations do not cause distinction, but rather are found to belong rather to compatibility, although perhaps some of them presuppose distinction. But in all relations based on action or passion, there is always another as subject, and unequal in virtue, except only in relations of origin, in which no diminution is designated, by that which is found to produce something similar and equal to itself in nature and virtue. It therefore remains that the divine persons cannot be distinguished except by relative opposition according to their origin. It is necessary, therefore, that if the Holy Spirit is distinguished from the Son, that it is from Him. Again, from the Father is the Son and the Holy Spirit. It is therefore necessary that the Father be referred to both the Son and the Holy Spirit as the beginning of what is from the beginning. Now it is referred to the Son by reason of paternity, but not to the Holy Spirit, because then the Holy Spirit would be the Son. For paternity is not said except to the Son. There must therefore be another relation in the Father by which He is referred to the Holy Spirit, and is called respiration. Similarly, since in the Son there is a certain relation by which He is related to the Father, which is called filiation, there must also be another relationship in the Holy Spirit by which He is related to the Father, which is called procession. And so, according to the origin of the Son from the Father, there are two relations, one in the originator, the other in the originated, namely paternity and sonship, and two others on the part of the origin of the Holy Spirit, namely breathing and procession. Therefore, fatherhood and respiration do not constitute two persons, but belong to one person of the Father, because they are not opposed to each other. Therefore, filiation and procession would not constitute two persons, but would belong to one, unless they were opposed to each other. Now there is no other opposition to be given, except according to origin. It is necessary, therefore, that there should be an original opposition between the Son and the Holy Spirit, so that the one should be from the other. Still, whatever things agree in something common, if they are distinguished from each other, they must be distinguished according to some differences per se, and not by accident, pertaining to that common thing. Just as a man and a horse agree in an animal, and are distinguished from each other, not by black and white, which they are related to the animal by accident, but by reason and irrationality, which pertain to the animal in itself. For since an animal is that which has a soul, this must be distinguished by the fact that it has such or such a soul, whether rational or irrational. Now it is manifest that the Son and the Holy Spirit agree in this, that it is to be from another, because each is from the Father, and according to this the Father is suitably different from both, inasmuch as He is unbegotten. If, therefore, the Holy Spirit is distinguished from the Son, this must be through the differences which by themselves divide this being from another. These, indeed, can only be differences of the same kind, that is, pertaining to the origin, so that one of them is from another. It remains, then, that in order for the Holy Spirit to be distinguished from the Son, it is necessary that He be from the Son. Further, if someone says that the Holy Spirit is distinguished from the Son, not because it is from the Son, but because of the different origin of both from the Father, it is really necessary to return to the same thing. For if the Holy Spirit is different from the Son, the origin or the process of both must be different. But the two origins cannot be distinguished except by a term, or a principle, or a subject. Just as the origin of the horse differs from the origin of the ox on the part of the limit, according as these two origins are limited to different natures in particular. But from the point of view of the principle, as if we suppose that in the same species of animal, certain things are generated only by the active power of the sun, and some, together with this, from the active power of the seed. On the part of the subject, however, the generation of this horse differs from that of that, according as the nature of the species is received in different matter. Now this distinction, which is on the part of the subject, it cannot take place in the divine persons, since they are entirely immaterial. In the same way also from the point of view of the boundary, so that it may be permitted to speak in this way, there cannot be a distinction of processions, because the Holy Spirit receives the one and the same divine nature which the Son receives when he is born. It remains then that the distinction between the two origins can only be on the part of the origin. Now it is clear that the Father alone is the source of the origin of the Son. If therefore the beginning of the procession of the Holy Spirit is the Father alone, there will be no other procession of the Holy Spirit from the generation of the Son, and thus neither is the Holy Spirit distinct from the Son. Therefore, because there are other processions and other processions, it is necessary to say that the Holy Spirit does not come from the Father alone, but from the Father and the Son. That it may be permitted to speak thus, there can be no distinction of processions, because the Holy Spirit receives the one and the same divine nature which the Son receives when he is born. It remains then that the distinction between the two origins can only be on the part of the origin. Now it is clear that the Father alone is the source of the origin of the Son. If, therefore, the beginning of the procession of the Holy Spirit is the Father alone, there will be no other procession of the Holy Spirit from the generation of the Son. And thus, neither is the Holy Spirit distinct from the Son. Therefore, because there are other processions and other processions, it is necessary to say that the Holy Spirit does not come from the Father alone, but from the Father and the Son. That it may be permitted to speak thus, there can be no distinction of processions, because the Holy Spirit receives the one and the same divine nature which the Son receives when he is born. It remains then that the distinction between the two origins can only be on the part of the origin. Now it is clear that the Father alone is the source of the origin of the Son. If therefore the beginning of the procession of the Holy Spirit is the Father alone, there will be no other procession of the Holy Spirit from the generation of the Son. And thus, neither is the Holy Spirit distinct from the Son. Therefore, because there are other processions and other processions, it is necessary to say that the Holy Spirit does not come from the Father alone, but from the Father and the Son. It remains then that the distinction between the two origins can only be on the part of the origin. Now it is clear that the Father alone is the source of the origin of the Son. If therefore the beginning of the procession of the Holy Spirit is the Father alone, there will be no other procession of the Holy Spirit from the generation of the Son. And thus, neither is the Holy Spirit distinct from the Son. Therefore, because there are other processions and other processions, it is necessary to say that the Holy Spirit does not come from the Father alone, but from the Father and the Son. It remains then that the distinction between the two origins can only be on the part of the origin. Now it is clear that the Father alone is the source of the origin of the Son. If therefore the beginning of the procession of the Holy Spirit is the Father alone, there will be no other procession of the Holy Spirit from the generation of the Son. And thus neither is the Holy Spirit distinct from the Son. Therefore, because there are other processions and other processions, it is necessary to say that the Holy Spirit does not come from the Father alone, but from the Father and the Son. If someone says again that the processions differ according to the principle, inasmuch as the Father produces the Son by way of the understanding as Word, and the Holy Spirit by the way of the will as love, according to this, it will be necessary to say that according to the difference of the will and the understanding in God, the Father, two processions and two proceeding, are distinguished. But the will and the understanding in God the Father are not distinguished according to matter, but only according to reason, as was shown in the first book. It follows, therefore, that the two processions and the two processions differ only in reason. But those things which differ only in reason are predicated of each other. For it will be truly said that the divine will is his understanding, and vice versa. It is true, then, to say that the Holy Spirit is the Son, and vice versa, which is Sabellian impiety. In addition, from the very fact that it is said that the Holy Spirit proceeds by way of the will, and the Son by way of the understanding, it follows that the Holy Spirit is from the Son. For love proceeds from the Word, in that we can love nothing unless we conceive it with the word of the heart. Again, if one considers the different species of things, a certain order is shown in them, as living things are above non-living things, and animals above plants, and man above other animals, and in each of these different degrees are found according to different species. Hence Plato also said that the species of things are numbers which vary in species by the addition or subtraction of a unit. Hence in immaterial substances there can be no distinction except according to order. But in the divine persons, which are entirely immaterial, there can be no other order than that of origin. Therefore there are not two persons proceeding from one, unless one of them proceeds from the other. And thus the Holy Spirit must proceed from the Son. Still, the Father and the Son, as regards the unity of essence, do not differ except in this, that this is the Father and this is the Son. Therefore anything other than this is common to the Father and the Son. Now the fact that the Holy Spirit is the principle is apart from the reason of paternity and sonship. For there is another relation in which the Father is the Father, and in which the Father is the principle of the Holy Spirit, as was said above. Therefore, to be the principle of the Holy Spirit is common to the Father and the Son. Further, whatever is not contrary to someone's reason, it is not impossible to agree with him, except perhaps by accident. Now, being the principle of the Holy Spirit is not contrary to the reason of the Son, nor inasmuch as he is God, for the Father is the principle of the Holy Spirit, nor inasmuch as he is a Son, inasmuch as the procession of the Holy Spirit and of the Son is different. But it is not inconsistent with that which is from the beginning according to one procession, to be the beginning of the procession of another. It remains, therefore, that it is not impossible that the Son is the beginning of the Holy Spirit, but what is not impossible can be. But in the divine there is no difference between being and being. Therefore the Son is the beginning of the Holy Spirit.